So I'm about halfway to Port Macquarie. I've just stopped in at Nabiac for a bit of a reviver survivor. It's been raining all the way up here, but the Toxic's cruising along nicely at 100, 110 k's, sitting with the traffic, overtaking some, getting blown off the road by trucks and having wobblies in caravans hold me up. But you know, that's life on the road, isn't it? So Nabiac, if you're not familiar with it, this is the home of National Motorcycle Museum. So just thought I'd swing by to have a look. So I'm holding up the driveway, so I probably better get out of the way, I guess. Then I'm going to go and buy a coffee. G'day guys, welcome back. I'm Todd, this is Toxic Garage Customs, and you are watching Toxic Garage Customs. Bit of a special treat for you today because I'm at Port Steering and Alignment in Port Macquarie. So I just drove up here for about 3 hours in Toxic. As I said, I'd had new tyres put on, had them balanced, and I hadn't had a wheel alignment done. So I took the chance of driving it up here and hoping that it didn't destroy my tyre. It was pulling to the left. I have to say it wasn't the worst thing in the world, but it clearly wasn't steering as well as it could. So I'll give you a review once I've got home as to how well this baby's driving. I love driving it, like seriously, 3 hours, 300 k's, do it with my eyes closed. Sometimes I do. Absolutely loved it, it was great. But an important thing to remember, if you're going to be doing anything to your steering, if you're going to be putting a Port Steering and Alignment steering conversion box in this, then it's only going to be as good as the weakest part, the worst part. So there's all these other parts. You know, you've got to have tie rods that are in good condition, ball joints that are in good condition, bushes, your steering column, all the various joints and things. So I'm going to let Stewie talk about that a little bit, because you know, I would be lying to say that you can just put in one of these fantastic steering box conversions and expect that it's going to change your whole world without making sure everything else is good. So every single part is good. It needs to be good. The steering is only as good as the worst component. And without any further ado, here he is, the master, the maestro, the magician, the technician that's going to ensure your direction perfection. Stewie.
Since 97.
Since 97.
Yep.
If I add up correctly, that's 10, 20, that's like 30 years. Congratulations, mate.
Yes.
Must be a celebratory year.
Yes.
Okay, sorry folks, my camera just stopped there for some reason. Stu was just talking about this. So basically, in a nutshell, what we've got here is a Rolls Royce, and it has 2 and a bit, how big are the valves, inlet valves?
2.5 inch, I think.
2.5 inch valves, inlet valves. It's got absolutely enormous ports. You can almost stick your whole arm down it. These things are really underrated, but we're going to have a quick look at the manifold. We're not here to look at Stu's truck, by the way, or I say truck, like that's a chassis at the moment. We're more here to have a look at and talk about the steering conversion that we did in Toxic. But let's face it, we're car people. I'm a rebody person, so this is pretty special to me. But let's go inside and just have a look at this engine. As we're walking inside, this is the nose cone. Yeah, at the moment it looks a little bit like a moke. Even Stewart admits that. It's not going to have that grille in it. He's got some pretty flash ideas there. But this is what it is. And this is the cab over here. It's a 1959 Dodge Fargo. Which, as I'm looking at it, it's quite similar to my International cab. My International doesn't have these little corner windows, but some of the things that are similar, like the internal trim, the door handles and stuff like that. But so Stu's going to be putting this cab with that front out there that you saw, and there's the bonnet over here, so there's various parts, onto that HZ chassis, radial tune suspension chassis, yes, you're correct. And it's going to have that rear end, that Rolls Royce motor, and turbo 400 transmission. So we'll get back to the truck, but Stu, incidentally, there's nothing in this shop, absolutely nothing in this entire shop that isn't an engineering marvel, that isn't bespoke and isn't like just incredibly well designed. Sorry, I'm getting distracted here. Look at this. We've got a table, it's just a work table, but look at this. It's now a table on wheels. Look at that. You're saying yes, so where did he buy that from? Well, the same place that this one came from. Even bigger table, more springs. Where do you buy it from? No, you don't buy these things. You make these things when you stew. And everything. Like, there's not a single thing in this entire workshop that isn't somehow modified, fabricated. Like, you need to move your milk crates around, so of course you make a stand on wheels. Your sheet metal. You make it so the centre of gravity is about half an inch off the ground, 10 mil off the ground, so you can roll it around. It's not a ridiculously small size or anything like that. It's exactly the right size to suit the finger brake, the pan brake, and the various things, like everything. And of course, anyone, I'm talking about you, anyone can put straight legs on something. So, no, Stu puts a curved leg and he puts rolled parts. Why? Well, why not? I reckon it's bloody lovely. You need a stump. He doesn't sell this stuff, by the way. This is his stuff, so don't get excited. You need a stump to do some panel beating. Excellent. There's one there. Oh, but look, one is not enough. We have two. Somehow they're different. This one's got a groove in it, I guess for doing tapers. It's got a bit of a flat edge, and etc, etc, etc. I could just keep walking around, but I'm getting distracted. Oh look, looks like a welding table made out of a bell housing. Is that what it is, a welding table?
Yeah.
Made out of a bell housing. Well, it seems natural to me to do that.
Oxy cutting, spray painting, anything.
Perfect.
All cut, pictured in the middle.
Very nice. Oh, and even over here, I'm getting distracted. The sandblast cabinet. I've got one of these. It works not very well. I'm pretty sure this one does. It's got a moisture trap. It's got a couple of inlets. It's got an evacuation, dust collection, goes up here. It's even got like a ram flow type filter on it. There's probably stuff I don't know. Yep, he's showing me inside. There is stuff I don't know.
Pickup pipe off the blower.
Oh, okay, yep.
And then a blower.
And a blower so you can clean it.
Blow the dust off before you open the door and throw it all on the floor.
And that's why there's two pipes in there.
Yeah.
Of course there is. Okay, now let's try and get back on target. What am I here for again? Oh look, more tools. Stu, yes. So, 6.7 litre, Rolls Royce, Turbo 400, VY, independent rear end, HZ chassis, Fargo, 59 Fargo body. It's going to be a beast. It's going to be a weapon. What steering is it going to have on it?
The same as what's in Toxic.
Oh, okay, so...
Exactly the same.
But hang on, that's not... Everyone puts rack and pinion on their trucks, or on their cars. Yeah. Rhubarb, he says.
Yep.
What's the problem?
What's the problem with rack and
Yeah,
pinion?
is it because the rack is right at the front of the vehicle and can be cleaned up by things?
It is. It's the repositioning the slab on the H series, repositioning the slab bars so it gets clouded on every driveway and curb.
Oh, yeah.
It's the phased unis in a chain of 4 unis that makes it an impossibly notchy, tight loose steering that's never going to disappear.
So phasing. Okay, so we've just moved position here. We're just talking about the phasing of unis. Stu, can you explain to me what you're talking about with the phasing of unis, please?
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, little rundown on steering shaft universals. It's a piece of wisdom that took me a little while to ever suss out, but I see it wrong time and time again. Most setups, I won't mention the brands, but aftermarket, particularly rack and pinion converters, they will supply double D shafts, which is easy to cut to length and fit to universal joints for your steering columns. And steering columns having phased uni joints, like a tail shaft where the uni joints are in phase, will never ever work. And the reason being is in a car setup, like between a gearbox and a differential, in a perfect world, the offsets and the angles in both unis are exactly the same, or incredibly close to each other, so that they don't vibrate. in the steering shaft, the angles, the input and the output angle of the units are usually, just by nature, have to be quite different.
And even so they're not in line with each other, is what you're saying?
Oh, well, like from the, say, the steering rack to the steering column, they're normally...
Oh, okay, yep.
They're normally in the same direction, like a car tail shaft like that would just flop out of the floor of the car.
Yep.
Car tail shaft, you want those angles to be the same.
Oh, okay, yep. So the pinion angle.
Right, but in the steering shaft, usually we've got convergent angles like so, and one angle is different to the other.
Yep.
Now, to make that a smooth rotation, I can show you a few factory examples. That phase needs to be, well, out of phase, actually.
So what we're looking at here, this joint here is flat on the top, whereas when we come back here, this one's actually tilted that way. So they're not in phase, they're actually out of phase. This one's clocked a bit around that direction. So they're not going to be binding up as they're trying to turn. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. I don't know the magic formula to how much out of phase for how much angle, but
yep.
One needs to be aware for really smooth steering that they are invariably going to be different to each other.
Okay, so because this is technical stuff and I don't want to overcomplicate things, I'll go back. So you were saying, we were saying that steering racks are a popular conversion, but an issue with the steering racks is that pretty much most of the kits that are out there, rather than using 36 splined shafts, I may or may not have just knocked that over. Rather than using 36 spline shafts, most manufacturers of aftermarket steering rack conversions use double D shaft, which means that the unis have to be phased the same as each other, because the double Ds, the shaft is flat on two sides and elliptical on the other sides, and the uni joints can only go on one way, so they will always end up being phased. Am I correct?
Yes, exactly.
When you've got 36 splines here, well, there's 360 degrees in a circle, so every spline gives you 10 degrees of variation, and you've got to work out through some sort of magic wizardry how to do that. And when you've got 4 universal joints lined up, which is what you need for most steering rack conversions, then you've got about 97,000 different variants that you can line this up. You might as well buy a lotto ticket, is what it sounds like, to get it right. My words, is that sort of where we're going here? That
exactly, and I'd be surprised if Harry Potter could get it to work. And then the next greatest evil is the support bearing in the column, which I won't get into now, but that's another evil that causes notchy binding steering.
Yep.
And again, you will not see a factory system that carries a shaft bearing.
No, you're right.
The ones you do see, I'll admit I'm wrong now. The one I have seen that carries a bearing on the shaft is a Jeep Wrangler. And if you've ever driven a Jeep Wrangler, you'll understand why carrier bearings and steering shafts make for they're all over the road like an Anzac Day drunk. Because of the looping in the shaft, and I could go on and on about it, but it's a horrible way to mount a steering shaft.
And I think from my vague experience, people usually use like a Heim joint and mount it into the front.
Tight, yeah.
So just so that people can identify what we're talking about here, you see it on hot rods and things a lot, where there will be like this little Heim joint that pops out from attached to the frame, somewhere there, and then the steering shaft goes through, and it sort of picks it up in the middle to stop the thing flopping around to try and control it. But as Stu's saying, it's far from an ideal setup, and it's not something that factory use, other than that one exception that was given. If you want to see examples of that, look at hot rods. They do it all the time. The reason being is that really tight engine bay spaces, and normally what they do, they work all around the exhaust system and have joints going left, right and centre just to get around their exhaust, because they build the steering around the exhaust rather than the other way around. We won't go there just at the moment, but they could avoid that by just avoiding going down this path of putting 37 different joints in there, using a standard steering column, rather than have to worry about phasing all this, using a standard Holden steering column, using a port steering and alignment steering box conversion, bolting the thing into the factory position, putting the original pitman arm back on, and not having to worry about being engineers and coming up with phasing solutions. Rather do a half-day job where you get all of the componentry nicely gift wrapped in a box on your doorstep, set yourself up with a glass of cordial, some tools, a couple of jack stands and a jack, and then in the afternoon be driving your car with that 12-to-1 3 turns lock-to-lock steering conversion that my beast now has. It's out there. Would that be right?
That would be exactly right. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so when you buy a port steering and alignment HQJ XZ, they fit WBs as well? Yeah, WB steering box conversion, then this is what you get. Oh, sorry, that's what it starts life as. 1 million pieces that I wouldn't have a clue where any of it went, or what needs to be replaced, or what the tolerances are or are not. This is what you get. This is where you go, ah! This is what you get. Brand new, shiny, my precious. And one of these. It is not disassembled when you get it, however. So this is the exact same box. It's not my box because mine's in the truck. This is the exact same box that you will get in the kit. This is the intermediate shaft, and of course you get the new torque amplifier. That's what they're called, isn't it, Stu?
Yeah.
Torque amplifier. Now this isn't all just for you. You get this, you buy this, it arrives beautifully gift wrapped in bubble wrap and foam with instructions. Like, it's just awesome. It's like Christmas. But this isn't just off the shelf stuff. So this isn't something that you can just get and cobble together yourself. This is a kit that has been assembled with a lot of knowledge so that you can put it into your car and bolt it up in half a day. And am I correct, Stu, that there is the option, or it might be part of it now, you tell me, that there's going to be a high pressure steering hose come with this now?
Oh yeah, in the Holden, to fit it to a Holden, where it's all, say Holden V8.
Yep.
As long as we can identify whether it's a metric or imperial pump.
Yep.
So we know to put the right fitting on it. It'll come with a Vanian high pressure line, so that it's literally a complete bolt-in unit. No modification whatsoever. Comes with mounting hardware, intermediate shaft, flex coupler amplifier, and the high pressure line and O-rings to suit the fittings on the box.
That's right. And the bolts. There was the bolts, the 3 bolts as well that you said?
Yeah.
The high tensile bolts?
Yeah, high tensile bolts. Fit straight onto your pitman arm, no modifications whatsoever. Fill it with oil, bleed it, and you're back on the road. Yep.
And thank you for that. And in the video when I installed this, it was as easy as all that. The only thing that I had to wait for was I had to go and get my high pressure pipe modified, and Stu has since come up with the solution. That's, you tell him whether it's metric or imperial, and he will tell you very easily how to identify that, and you'll get a high pressure pipe with the kit. So no wait. I reckon you could have your cornflakes, walk out with a cup of tea, go out, install this box, be back in time to watch whatever it is that you want to watch on the TV after lunch, and or mow the lawns. That easy. Or probably, if it was me, I'd go for about a 6-hour drive. Whatever floats your boat. Okay, so we know exactly what we're getting. We know exactly why we should get it. But there's some really important things that I said about other components. So, Stu, to get the best value out of installing this kit into my car, what is super important? What other things are super important to make sure it's going to drive and steer the best it possibly can?
HQ to WB Holden. They're getting a little old these days, but for the very best performance, that's why I supplied an intermediate shaft, because they're notoriously loose, and I have seen umpteen examples of, even with the Holden box, I'll supply a box and then it's blamed for being loose or out of adjustment when it's really a peripheral part that's making the steering box seem loose. Okay?
Yeah, okay.
So that's why I insist on supplying the most the notoriously worn part with the kit.
Oh, okay, so this is the most notoriously worn part. So this is...
every single time. They always end up loose in this unit.
Okay, yep.
Joint.
Yep.
It's easier for everyone involved if I just supply it with it.
Yep. And no one has to ask for that. That's just when you buy the kit, that just comes with it.
Yeah.
Yep. No if, buts or maybes. Yep.
It's a good idea to check the drag link joint, especially if it's an original looking part. They tend to wear and again will behave like a loose steering box. It's easy to check by looking down through the engine bay where the pitman arm meets the drag, and having someone just wiggle the steering, and the drag should move in perfect unison with the pitman arm.
Yep. So
really
no delay. No delay, no slop.
Yeah, none at all.
Yep.
Then you know you're going to have an instant steering reaction.
Yep.
The poor drag link joint does an awful lot of work in its life, driving all the steering and absorbing all the road shock over, these things are pushing 40 years.
Yep.
200,000, 300,000, 400,000 kilometres is not unusual.
Yep.
Drag link is worth $150 and it will make the steering perform an awful lot better just by fitting a new one.
Absolutely.
Once you've got a chance to do it. Yeah.
Yep. And just to correct you,
red,
these things are pushing 50 years, mate.
Exactly.
Yep.
And I would also take it as read that or take it as assumed knowledge that ball joints, tyre ends, control arm bushers and upper control arm bushers are in at least good, very good to serviceable condition.
Yep.
Again, they'll only detract from the experience of fitting good steering, but...
So can I put words into your mouth?
Yep.
They need to be registration worthy?
Oh, yeah, at least. And look, if it's a Holden that you dearly love, which people tend to be deeply in love with them these days,
yep.
I would check or replace those things just as a matter of course. If they're at all sus, just change it. It's only going to make the thing much nicer to live with, hold a better wheel alignment, more pleasant to drive, no rego hassles, and no hassles with supplying steering to a car that's got worn out front end parts.
Yeah. So I'm just going to interject there for a second. Really what we're getting to here is that one rotten apple in the barrel can ruin the whole thing. So if you've got a worn out tyre, that will affect your steering. If you've got a worn out ball joint, tie rod end, drag link, pitman arm, not yet, pitman arm's probably got to wear that much, intermediate shaft, any of those things, the steering can only be as good as the worst part. This is going to be the best part in the whole steering. Don't let it down by having worn out componentry otherwise. Something as simple as what I did in my video of greasing everything that can be greased can make a big difference. But if it's worn out, replace it. Just as an interest factor, I've got an entire rebuild kit for my International, which is on a HJ chassis. I'm going to be doing a video about every single piece and component that needs to be replaced on a front end to make it drive like new. And of course, make it drive better than new, then you can use this steering conversion. So Stu, I'm going to wrap this up here because I've got to drive for 3 hours to get home, and I think it's about 6 o'clock or something, and you've probably got to go home to your lovely wife. So I've really enjoyed coming up and seeing you. Just as a little bit of unrelated, Stu and I went to TAFE together. I trained as a mechanic and I don't work as one anymore. Stu trained as a mechanic and he certainly works as one, but a specialist mechanic now, or technician. We trained together 40 years ago, so we've known each other for 40 years. And our friendship carried on. We actually haven't seen each other for quite a while, but we've been in contact via social media, the joys of social media. Stu was at my wedding. We used to party hard together. We used to go out and see bands and all that sort of stuff, and all that stuff that I'll never tell my kids about. And I trust Stu not to tell any either, because my kids are now old enough to know. Where was I going with all that? Oh, I've got to drive home for 3 hours, and I'm really looking forward to jumping in that thing, Toxic, and belting down within the speed limit, the freeway, and getting home in daylight to have dinner with my wife, and as I said, so Stu can do the same. So I want to thank Stu for his time. If you live anywhere within a 3-hour drive of Port Macquarie, then I thoroughly recommend coming up here and having your wheel alignment done. I didn't really touch much on that. Stu has a Hoffman wheel alignment centre, and by his own words, it's not the absolute top of the range, but it's a super good system. And what I can say is that it basically gives live feedback. So Stu adjusted something and it gave feedback straight away. And when I say it gave feedback straight away, that allowed Stu to jump back on the spanners and keep adjusting it and correcting it and getting it better and doing a bit more and getting it better until it was within 6 seconds of a degree of accuracy. And I think he was disappointed he couldn't get it better than that, but quite frankly that's one tally-ho paper difference. So I was pretty happy with that. And for those of you that don't know what a tally-ho paper is, it's a very thin piece of paper. So if you want an absolutely killer wheel alignment and you live anywhere near Port Macquarie, then look up Port Steering and Alignment, come and see Stu, even if it's for you. Beg your pardon?
No, that's
okay. Yeah, that's true, yeah. And it doesn't even have to be on one of these cars. Just get your wheel alignment done by the best. As I said, I work on my own cars, I build my own cars. There's a few things that I have to let other people do, and wheel alignment is one of them. I wouldn't drive 300 k's to go and have my windscreen wipers changed, but I did drive 300 k's to come and have my wheel alignment done, because when you're onto a good thing, stick to it. On that note, folks, thank you, Stu.
Thank you.
This is the face. This is the man. This is the man that you're going to see. He will be under your car, and I tell you what, he's not going to walk away from it until he is 100% satisfied. Because why? He's got a reputation to upkeep, and he lives by it. 30 years in the business. He's got a very high. He's respected, is what I'm trying to say, by people in the industry and outside of the industry, because he does good quality work. So, want one of these? Contact him. Want a wheel alignment done? Contact him. If you want to just have a chat, just come and contact him. He's probably not doing anything anyway. Anyway, that's enough from me, from Port Macquarie. I've got a drive to go home. I look like Harry Potter. I've got a drive to take home so that I can do all the things that I said, and I can eat some dinner. So take care. Till I see you next time. Stay safe. Pick up an angle grinder and cut something, or just bolt in a steering box. See ya.